This is a terrible lizard for most people to have. Okay, all right. I didn't mean to offend you. All right, we're not going to start off with the big boys. Diamond's not going to make the list. This is a bearded dragon. They're great. But there are 5 lizards I would say are really bad for most people. So to qualify for this list, it just means that they're not good for most people. So if you're exceptional or you're going to put tons and tons of effort into one animal, these might be for you. For everybody else, pick something else. And I'll give you the options of what are better. Also, keep in mind, I'm going to talk about care a lot in this video. So just right off the bat, it's all going to be in the link below, all the stuff that I use that you're going to need for these animals. And to say thanks for clicking the link and shopping at Chewy.com, where I like to get all my stuff. We'll give you a $20 Chewy gift card when you spend $49 or more for brand new customers. So if you've been thinking about trying Chewy out, because you hear me talk about them all the time, now's a good time. We'll give you a $20 gift card just to say thanks. Number 5, basilisks. There are several species of basilisk. There's 3 at least, maybe more. I'm not a basilisk expert, but I know some of them will get up to 3-4 feet. They're huge. Look at this one that we found in Costa Rica. And they would, I was told, don't put your hands near its face because you might be leaving with less of a finger, just to give you an idea. Now, they're not dangerous animals by any means. They don't want to hurt you. The reason is they're big and they need a lot. They are so needy. These things need height because they like to be above water, which means they need water also. Kind of give that away. So we're talking about water in the bottom, and you need lots of branches, and they're 4 feet. So where are you going to keep this thing? You're going to need an enclosure like this one just for that one animal. This is an 8 foot by 6 foot tall by 4 feet deep enclosure, okay? This is half the size of the bedroom I had when I was a kid. That's what you need to keep one of these animals. So there's a few options here. If you want something that's just really, really cool, maybe a little bit smaller, but just less needy, I would recommend a frilled dragon. Frilled dragons are amazing. Actually, let me get you one. I don't know why I just didn't start out with you, but anyway, this is Tilly the Frilly, the frill dragon. Beautiful frill. There's a few different options in terms of if you want an Indonesian like this one, or you want an Australian. But if you want an animal that's, I mean, it's still a little bit smaller, but it's just unique. And the thing with basilisks is they look unique. That's why people like them. There's not much more unique than a frill dragon. I mean, it's a sizable lizard, about the size of a bearded dragon, unless you get an Australian. Australians do get bigger and more red. I've got a couple of babies that I haven't really shown on the channel yet that will get big like that. And they're still pretty demanding. They need a high space. You know, they do like a lot of height. They eat a lot of insects, so they're still demanding, but they don't need a water feature. And generally they're easier to tame out and just handle like this. This one came to me just like this. I put in no work. If you want an animal that acts like a basilisk in that it is semi-arboreal and semi-aquatic, there's really no good options for that size. Some people will say an Australian water dragon. I don't agree with this. I think you're better off with a mountain horn dragon. Now there's a few different sizes too. If you want small ones, like I have, the lepidogasters, or if you want one like a capra, like Daffy's Reptiles has. Those are, in my opinion, kind of the perfect option because they're chill. They'll literally just hang out with you and not move around a whole bunch. Their diet is really easy. The care is very similar. They're from a different part of the world, of course, but you can pick your size, which is another thing, and they're semi-arboreal and semi-aquatic. Just way easier, in my opinion, to take care of. And I mean, they're easier to find captive bred. Not super easy, but still pretty darn easy. Basilisks aren't for most people. Number 4, beaded lizards and Gila monsters. Gila monsters, it is pronounced Gila monster, by the way, and beaded lizards are both from the southwest portion of United States, Mexico. Like, you know, there's different ranges, but you get the point. They are the only venomous, or when I was growing up, these were the only venomous lizards that there are that were medically significant. Now we know a little bit more about venom in lizards, but still, I would say of all the lizards to get bit by, the ones that are going to envenomate you are these ones. They look really similar. They're both very cool. They're going to eat really cool diets. They like it really hot and for the most part, really dry. So they're actually really easy to take care of. The problem is they're illegal in a lot of places. And well, I mean, they're venomous. So you're not going to want to handle them or free handle them, although some people do, I understand. But in general, most people shouldn't. There's just too much of a risk factor. And it is a significant enough venom, it would really suck. It's not going to kill you, but boy, would it suck to get bit by one. Instead, if you want a desert-dwelling animal that's going to have a cool diet, be about the same size, get a Uromastyx. This is another choose-your-own-adventure when it comes to size. Egyptian Uromastyx are huge. They get 3 feet, freaking massive. They're not quite as pretty as an ornate or maybe a Saharan. Saharans are really easy to come by. They're really cheap. Get a red one, get a yellow one, whatever. Either way, they come from Middle East type area. That area, there's a bunch of different species. They're some of the most beautiful animals, especially those ornates. They're a vegetarian, so an herbivore, right? They might eat a bug here or there, but I had one for a little while. It wasn't for me. They're not for me. They don't move around enough. But I think that this is a perfect animal. And if you really want something that's a carnivore that has the same sort of parameters in terms of taking care of, then maybe get yourself an Ackie monitor. Ackies are really cool too. Obviously not a beginner reptile, I would say, but in terms of monitors, there's not much better than an Ackie, and they have that, varandid about them where, there's the jury's still out if they have any sort of actual venom, but it's not going to hurt you. So either way, Uromastyx are pretty cool. Ackies are really cool. Neither one of them are as cool, in my opinion, as beaded lizards or Gila monsters, but they're definitely better for most people when it comes to having a pet lizard. Number 3, something we've never talked about on the channel ever before. Sorry, my hands are all they're so dry. I don't want to I feel like a surgeon. I wash them so much. Children, I tell you. Skunk geckos. I've never talked about them on the channel before. There's a reason why they came up. Skunk geckos they're weird. They're both from Southeast Asia. They're really cool, arboreal animals. Skunk geckos have that really cool skunky, skunkiness on their back. So they're really cool. They're not that difficult, but the problem is they're almost always found not captive, wild caught. I don't like this for a few reasons. I mean, I've beat this to death, so I'll just go real light on this. If you want to watch more, there's a video right here, or whatever corner it pops up, about wild caught and why I don't like them. So I'm gonna make a hypocrite out of myself big time in a few months. Subscribe button's there if you want to follow along. Call me names. Anyway, because these are not captive, they're oftentimes not really handleable. They're flighty. They come full of parasites. They don't last that long. But if you were to breed them and then have the stock from that, that's a different thing. And it would be totally irresponsible for me to then go get a bunch of them coming in from an Indonesian import in the summer. I would never do that. Instead, if you want that skunky type pattern, get a Sarah. Sarah sonorum geckos are freaking amazing. I love them. They're so cool. I don't have them because they just don't fit. I mean, these are similar to a crested gecko or Chihuahua gecko. Very similar. If you can take care of a crested gecko, you can take care of a Sarah, no freaking problem. They're just a little bit more difficult to find, but they're going to be captive. If you find them, they're almost always going to be a captive animal, and they're going to do great. Easy diet, easy to handle, just freaking amazing. Number 2, chameleons. I beat this up all the time. All your chameleons that you're going to find from the most part anyway, that are, even if they're captive, your veiled, panthers, Jackson's chameleons, they have a learning curve. There's special requirements that most people don't talk about. For example, Jackson's chameleons, some of the coolest animals on the whole planet. There's some babies available to me right now for a great price. It's so hard to say no, but I'm not going to be able to get them to 100% humidity and a night drop of 65 degrees every night. They need high humidity and a massive night drop, otherwise they will slowly die. I've had conversations in depth talking to Bill Strand, the Chameleon Academy, who in my opinion is the guy when it comes to chameleons, and it was because of his conversation with me, I decided not to get one. Veiled, panthers, a little bit easier, but still, they're very unforgiving. If you mess up, they're going to die. I never have in my entire life met a chameleon keeper who's had a chameleon for several years who hasn't been to the vet, where myself, I've been to the vet with my reptiles a handful of times, and I've got literally hundreds of them. Well, not now, but in my time, I've had hundreds and hundreds of them. I'm probably pretty close to 100 now, though. Although, wait till you see the animals that are coming in the summer. Anyway, the answer is really obvious. A false chameleon or a bearded anole would be better. They have the pinchy hands. They have the eyes that move independently. They're just so much more simple to take care of. The diet's pretty much the same. Care is pretty much the same. A little bit different body structure, of course. There's other things you can get too. I think Urodactylotes or chameleon geckos are another really great option because, they're much smaller, but they're chameleon-y. And just in general, Urodactylotes are really underrated. And number 1 is the black and white tegu. Now, black and white tegus, as far as tegus go, are probably the best tegu that you can get. There's red tegus, there's blue tegus, which is kind of a cross. There are gold tegus and some other ones. These are definitely the best ones. But the reason I'm putting them on the list is because they're big. I mean, this is a female, so this isn't even as big as they get. They can get much bigger than this, and sometimes they have temperament issues. Now, ours is pretty chill. Ours has gone through the puberty, as they call it, the puberty that sometimes they go through, especially males, where they become cantankerous and you can't really deal with them. I would recommend other options that are smaller. Now, if you really want something big, I mean, 4 feet sometimes, there's not much better than a tegu. They just are kind of awesome, and I absolutely love this animal. They're great. But for most people, I'm talking 95% of people, Miss Mushu here is not for you. Instead, maybe think about something like a Lacerda. Jeweled Lacerdas, I will always say, are kind of mini tegus. They look similar, they act very similar, they walk similar, their tongues look almost the same, they have almost the same diet, heat, humidity, you name it. The difference is they're smaller. And because they're smaller, they're easier to care for, they are much cheaper to care for too, and they're cheaper to buy. Everything about them is just a little bit easier. Now, with that in mind, I had a Lacerda and then I got a tegu. So why did I do that if tegus are so much worse? They're not. They're just worse for most people. I didn't get a tegu in 2019 when I got my Lacerda because I wasn't ready for one yet. I wasn't ready for Mushu until about 2021, and I was ready for a baby and I wanted it to grow. I wasn't ready for a big animal like this. And if you're thinking, well, you know, how long does it take? Maybe I can get ready. I think that's the right option, because if you get an animal like this, who used to look like this, you've got time to watch them grow. And some of them grow extremely slow. This tegu was born at the end of 2020 or maybe beginning of 2021. You see what the data is now, and it took her this long to get this big. Even this video was shot less than a year ago, and look at the size difference. So she's finally full size, she is thick, she's an amazing animal, but sometimes when she wants to get away from you, she's just gonna get away from you, and there's nothing you can do. So there you go. Those are the 5 really bad pet lizards and the other ones you should get. Let me know in the comments section below what you think is really bad as a pet lizard. And of course, none of them are really bad, but you get the point. Anyway, thanks for hitting like and subscribe. As always, the Patreon supporters, videos early, discounts on merch, one-on-ones, all that and more for as little as $1 a month. And I'll see you guys in the next one.